Alrighty, and so making your video here. I'm gonna send you a couple other links to videos I have pre-made, like how to hold the guitar and the thing about myths and misunderstandings and so forth. You might want to take a look at that. So let's separate this into right hand and left hand, and also just imagining going down the page as best I can. Rhythm guitar wise, we talked about a couple different elements. Let me just pull a pick out of my situation over here. Excuse me. The concept of down on the downbeat and up on the upbeat that came up in the Built to Spill song, where it totally makes sense. Analytically, that it would go down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But in fact, we're going to be going down, down, up, down, up. Always down on the downbeat, always up on the upbeat. And if we think about doing this faster, we start to see this sense of momentum in my... So yeah, you need two ups in a row at first, or downs in a row. In some contexts, counterintuitive. So please stop your video and work on that. Go for one good rip through the chord progression. Pause. Another one. Pause. Probably after 5, 6, 10 of them, you're gonna have totally ingrained the rhythm. Now, having done that, try to do it twice, meaning just two, which is kind of like a formality. So pause your video, do that a couple times, and now and only now try to loop it over and over again. Because again, what we're seeing right there is one, memorization headspace where we're consciously focused on little subsections, and then playing headspace where we switch to, okay, now I went over that adequately. So memorizing the dance steps analogy. So allowing for that stage where you're just showing your hands, this is what I'm going to be doing when I set out to play said thing, said section of said thing. And we talked at length about, break stuff into small sections and finish as you go. And that when we're in the memorization headspace, you can totally eliminate rhythm being a priority. Pause a bunch. And another manifestation of this is not always starting at the beginning. Like with your Built to Spill song where you were doing this, we talked about the being correct, but then wanting to go rather than just which feels cool, but if it would work for any number of things, but we want to generally be more ergonomic and efficient. So there's that. Then why don't you chill and play your Built to Spill song. Having done that, now let's keep in mind remind you of the down and away concept. That's how we hit 2 and 3 strings at a time, but not the one beneath it. In this song, pretty much most of the time we're muting the strings beneath what we're doing, so it won't be as much of an issue as when we're doing the pentatonic scale type stuff that we worked on. Cool. So, the pentatonic scale type stuff we worked on. I wrote down the A minor pentatonic. This is A. Also, really quickly, learning note names is a geography test, not a deductive reasoning problem. We've been doing stuff like, if 4 of my friends walked in during your lesson and I was like, these are their names, you wouldn't try to group them, you would just memorize them, or you might be like, sorry, your name again, and then you'd remember it forever, or as long as you had repeat exposure to those people. Whereas people set up processes like, I'll be able to find A because I know this is G, or I'll be able to find B because I know this is A, when really memorizing those names is just assigning names to dots like we've been doing since kindergarten. So let's decide you're going to learn G and C and A and B. They're just the bass notes at the 3rd fret and 5th fret. Really easy to train oneself to go G and C, A and D, but then you have to go G, C, A to be allowed to think D. So you randomize to memorize. And this will come up anytime we're doing a dry memorization task. What I mean is, give yourself a geography test on it where it doesn't always occur in the same order. Cool. So maybe just stop messing around with that a little bit. If you already know those note names, just staying on the dots. The 7th fret is B and E. And most of our common bar chords and so forth, if you just know those note names, you can find your way to whatever might occur. If it's like D flat, minor, you'll be able to figure out how to do it. Cool. So, there you go. Landmarks is what we're referring to. Learn all the note names on those strings, daunting task, but it's totally cool if you know this is A, and the first whole bunch of times A flat comes up, you go A flat in your head really quickly. And then X amount of times doing that, you'll wake up one day and just know it's A flat. So that's what I mean by landmarks, and that's why we're picking 6 notes rather than memorizing every single note in that area. And that seemed like the daunting task, but just learning 6 notes. Pretty doable. So pentatonic stuff. Let's just talk about thumb positioning. So what we didn't want was my hand is up here, so my hand and fingers disappear behind the instrument. We didn't want our elbow pinned against our body when we're playing in first position. So why don't you just pause real quick here, and with that in mind, which I deliberately didn't introduce when you were working on the right hand concept, try to square up a little bit more and play your Built to Spill song and see what we have, occur there where, man, it's all the way over there, starts to feel more doable. And, tennis ball was the analogy, or make a fist, not like a dramatic difference. And this is for exactly playing in this part of the fretboard. We talked about having our thumb parallel to these 2 fingers 100% of the time, whether we're in classical position, and we can trick ourselves into getting into it by doing 4 fingers all on the bass string. Not this, just there it is. And then when we switch to the thumb over top position, it's really a nominal change. And what you've been doing is this. And what we discovered was if you did that instead, that the rest of your positioning was pretty good for doing thumb over top playing. Cool. So why don't you just mess with that a little bit, playing any notes whatsoever anywhere. And we're going to use our pentatonic scale to do a couple things. So first of all, when you're just going through it, I want you just going down the scale, consciously focused, and not seesawing whatsoever. Also, that sense of your middle finger coming with your ring finger, we want to remember that now, that the most obvious application is bends, but you might want to use that finger. So just go up the scale. And if you want to stick with your pinky for right now at the moment, that's cool. And again, it's not that we never do this, it's just that when we do certain things, including the majority of kind of lyrical, highly nuanced, simple structure stuff we do on pentatonic 1, we're going to want to be using our ring finger there. We wouldn't do it on the bass string, but when we get to here, we want to, the jazz approach is I use 4 fingers and then I swap out my ring for a bend. So just be sure not to bunch your whole hand up. We had that sense of pushing up with these 2 fingers, and then when you went to the 2nd string, this coming along for the ride at the 7th fret, not the same fret, fret back. Don't pick this finger up either, and just thumb over top, unbending, work on bending. It never was meant to go like that or whatever. So just work on some bends really quick. Pause your video. And then the context we decided we were going to work on this in was just going like 2 notes bend, these notes bend, these notes bend, and don't seesaw, just remind you. These notes bend, these notes bend. Now you are using your ring finger. These notes bend, and I'm totally able to go, because in some way I sat around and wanted to do that. For you right now, just forget the concept of rhythm exists. Don't turn exercises into songs. It's way cooler to go like ba-da-bum, 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 but really you want to just be focused myopic little sections. And it's totally cool if there's any amount of pause in between. Each little section is fine. That's what we're doing. We're focused on what we're doing. We're showing ourselves how to do it. So then we talked about doing hammer-ons on the way up and pull-offs on the way down, working on this index finger positioning. And on the way up, you could still kind of seesaw, but when you're doing a pull-off, it's literally impossible without your first finger still being there. So right now, just pause and interact with that pentatonic scale and try hammer-ons on the way up and pull-offs on the way down. But I want you to get comfortable with hammer-ons up before you try pull-offs on the way down. Just do this a couple times until your brain says, yeah, I can probably do that now, which ought to be about 5 to 10 repetitions, and then have a rest. Then you don't have to do this to be allowed to do this. And what's more, it would really suck to do the first thing to work on the actual new section we're working on, which is doing pull-offs on the way down. So you want to stop, reset your mental processes, and just do the pull-offs without doing the thing on the way up first. Stop, do that. And now combine them into the hammer-ons on the way up, pull-offs on the way down. If you want to play in rhythm, it should organically be because you're having no trouble playing in rhythm. And if you want to, go make it into kind of a melody or whatever, that's great. But just don't turn it into a song that goes ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, or, this is the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That would be way cooler, but you're just trying to show yourself hand movements that you're going to use in a lot of contexts. Awesome. I think that's pretty much what we went over, or the bulk of it, certainly. But hit me back if you have any questions. I'm going to upload this and send it to you. And we are good to go for next Monday at 6 p.m. And that's totally going to work. And I will see you then, man. Thanks again for coming past. Cheers.